Hello, this is Nicolas Polimenakos, aka Sparkles of Gold. Today's video is about the Aquarius full moon that's happening here August 11th, 2022. This video isn't going to be long. I'm going to say a couple things about the chart, 3 to 4 things, and then have a few thoughts and let it be that way. Why? Because some of you have subscribed to my channel, haven't seen me in a month and a half, and at the end of the video, I will be honest and speak my truth and tell you why. But let's go to the chart. I'm going to switch over here. This chart here is August 11th, 2022 on the West Coast. You can't see it. It's 6:35 p.m. Trying to have my face in the chart there. I'm looking at the chart now, and I'm looking at you. Here is the Leo sun at 19 degrees, and there is the moon in Aquarius 19. That's what a full moon is. The moon's on the opposite of the sun. It's an opposition, 180 degrees away from each other. So there it is, 19. When the moon is together with the sun, that's a new moon. There was a new moon in Aquarius actually 6 months ago. I think it happened at 12 degrees Aquarius. So if you do some deeper astrology, you can kind of look to that period of time and something that was started, a new moon, and 6 months later, here we are at the full moon. See what I'm saying? So you can find the connection there. I won't get into it. What is predominant in this chart off the bat is Saturn conjunct the moon here with this full moon. You can see it right there. It's going to put a little bit more weight and restriction and rules on this full moon. Northern hemisphere, we're talking summertime, southern winter. Think there would be some more airiness involved because of the Aquarius full moon. The more of the detachment from a so-called emotion, so on and so forth. But I'm going to take the time here to tell you that. Don't let anybody ever tell you or read some astrology book and tell you that someone who was born with an Aquarius moon is cold and doesn't feel anything. It's bullshit. It just is how emotional content is processed is different than like all the other signs. So don't let that fool you. This is an emotional moon because you can't have the full moon without the sun. And so you have the polarity of signs of Leo and Aquarius and what they do with each other. And the thing they have in common is that they are fixed. These are fixed signs. What is a fixed sign? All astrology signs are broken up into different modalities, and some signs, and those are the signs that begin the season, all the seasons, they are called cardinal. They initiate. Those birthdays are done the first month of the season. The next month that comes after that, that's when the fixed signs kick in, and they take what's initiated and work and keep it focused and push through. The sign after that, the third, is always mutable, and it's switching up and mutates to get ready for the new season after that. This 3-month cycle repeats. It's the cycles. It always starts with cardinal, fixed, mutable. Why am I saying that? Why does it matter? Because predominantly here, and for the theme this year and last year and for next year, everything, mostly the bigger transits that are happening in fixed signs. So we have, here's the sun in Leo, here's Aquarius, and there's Saturn. We have the moon's nodes where the eclipses have been happening since the end of last year, where they happened in April and in May of this year. And then they were coming up at the end of October and November in the signs of Scorpio and Taurus. Now, this is kind of the midway place between those eclipses that happened at the end of spring and the ones that are coming up here. And these places, Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, this is where the story is, and it has been this year. Saturn's coming in here to put a little bit of restriction on a little bit of the celebration that Aquarius wants to have, but the Aquarius isn't too bothered by it because it's ruled by Saturn, and can understand that there's work involved here. And the work is kind of a midway point from the point I mentioned earlier about the new moon that happened in Aquarius earlier this year. I think it was January 31st, 12 degrees. And then the eclipses that have been happening, midway point in the middle of eclipse season. You feel me here? Now, here on this day, you have Mars, which has been a huge part of the story with Uranus and the node this past 3 weeks, past month. A lot of astrologers have been talking about it. I haven't been around. Honestly, these transits have directly affected my life to the point where I couldn't be around. I'll say that at the end of the video. I'll give you a clue into why, several reasons. Use me as an example. But these are involved. This is what they call a grand cross when all fixed signs are happening. So there's a lot of tension involved and oppositions and tension between all these fixed signs. And if you want to understand the word tension with astrology, you just look to the story of any fixed sign, because they're the ones that can be the most tension filled, especially at the midpoints. The middle points, I'm a believer of these signs. We're not too far away with 19 here, or where the full moon is. Now, saying all that, we have Mars, Uranus, the node, squaring in a wide square all this, creating tension in this story since last November when the eclipses started happening. Venus happens to be on this day today. Venus enters in the sign of Leo, brings a little bit more. I think Venus being in Leo, though, gives us a little bit of a pressure release valve with these tension going on with Mars and Saturn in the chart here, that we've had a Mars-Saturn square going on in the last week. The ongoing Uranus is squaring the moon, 18 degrees. The moon is squaring, Uranus is squaring Saturn, a long story that I've talked about before. Mars is throwing the volatility in there, the fight. But here comes Venus and Leo to add more fire, but it actually could have fun with some of this. And you can look to Venus and Leo for the rest of this month. No, actually, no, I correct myself. For this particular lunation, as to help you out, because later on, Venus is actually going to be squaring these Taurus planets. Square is a 90-degree angle. It's like two cars going through the stop sign at once. Four-way stop at once. It creates a challenge. Something needs to change. Something needs to be moved, or it fails. But then, Venus eventually is going to be opposite Saturn. So there isn't an easy story here for Venus and Leo. It's going to start off that way. But for someone who has Venus and Leo in their chart or other things, it's not so... There's some roadblocks coming up. You just got to learn how to work with this. Listen, I can go on about this chart about Mars squaring the moon, Mars square Saturn. It's volatile and caustic. Listen, this whole year's been that way, and the rest of this month is actually, and especially if you're a fixed sign person, you Scorpio rising, Taurus rising, you have Leo planets, you have Aquarius planets, you already know what's going on actually. You should know what's going on in your world. You've been challenged, and this has really started to happen last year. At this point, we have a midpoint, I'll repeat it again, we have a midpoint from 6 months ago when the Aquarius new moon happened. By the way, Venus and Mars, Venus was coming out of the retrograde in a Capricorn. Mars was in Capricorn. You got to go back. You have to remember what was happening. And here we are at the midpoint, and I will repeat this again. We're at the midpoint of the eclipses that happened in Scorpio and Taurus. If you don't know what's going on in your world, if you're a fixed sign person or have fixed things, I don't know what else you need to show you what you have to deal with and what has to end or what you need to initiate. All that stuff, okay? And if you don't know, I'm open for readings again because I'm back, okay? So, listen, I just gave you that. I don't want to talk anymore about this thing's chart. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you a word that you can use for all of this. It's called forging. You're in the cauldron right now if you have fixed stuff. Unavoidable changes. Out of the blue, fundamental rocking changes in your life. Especially if you're a Taurus, you're a Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius. you're the ones dealing with this shit, okay? So I want you to think about forging. And what I mean by that, I want you to picture something that you're forging yourself. And you imagine yourself, you could say that you're a sword or like a weapon. You could think about it that way. That's the way I'm thinking about it, to be honest, this week. But it doesn't mean I'm going out to use the weapon. I'm coming out as forging, as in forging is you start from something pure and it's built and it's knocked and smashed with fire and brawn and steel and it takes heat and it builds resistance and with something like a full moon like this, the eclipse is coming up again. The ongoing story with Uranus and Taurus. Think of yourself as building armor and forging yourself through the despair, through the fire, through the pain and suffering, through the major breaks. Because when you're a fixed sign, you're the most stubborn of signs. And it takes a lot to break whatever it is there or break you. The reason is because it was originally forged, initiated by a cardinal sign, and a fixed sign comes in and forges it to make it strong, to complete its mission, to go through to the end. Point A to point B, finish the story, finish the project, finish the challenge, forge yourself. You feel me? So I want you to think about that if this directly affects you, is that you're in the middle of this forging process. And you've taken bumps. You have scar tissue building already. You got open wounds. You have fundamental pieces of your places of your life that are in pieces, and you have to throw that away or put the pieces back together. Put them and forge, build, solidify. Use the fixed modality. Use the fixed part of things to build something stronger, faster, more resistant. Because down the line, it's going to get heavier with the transits, but it might not seem so heavy at that time because you're at the midway point of things with this whole story. Take pride in it. Don't let anything or anybody get in your way for what you feel is right for yourself, whether it comes to putting the pieces back together again, healing, a mission in a project and a dream or an inspiration you have to keep marching on and fulfill that dream and mission. You got the fixed stuff in your chart. If this is affecting you, that's a reason why it's there. You feel at times that everything's broken down, but keep going. There are rewards and prizes awaiting you. I'll be honest, this story really isn't going to be until next year. When we get into May of next year, when Jupiter goes into Taurus, a lot of you people are going to be seeing some rewards out of this. Let's not go that far. Think about brawn, armor, forging. Not to attack, not to hurt. Think about it as a form of building and of self-love. And if there are those in your life that do not understand, they don't understand. If you come from a strong present place with honesty about what's going on in your world with people around you, those who understand will be there for you and get it. There's those who will not. Or in the future, they'll figure it out eventually. If you're coming from a place of self-love, if you're coming from the intention of rebuilding or becoming stronger or forging, it might sound aggressive, but I think it's just part of life. And sometimes you have to build the armor and forge it together and be in the heat of battle at times, in the heat of things, and it becomes something else. So you people out there, the Leo, Scorpios, Taurus, and Aquarius, I have your back. Come at me with a reading if you want. Tell me that you're that. I'll work anything out with you because my heart goes out to you. Why? Because I'm in that place. So this is a personal thing. Why haven't I been around? Why haven't I done a video? It's because I got sick as fuck and I got COVID and it's taken me, I'm still coming out of it. It's 6 weeks now. And I'll tell you, it's real And everyone's different if they get it, how they react to it. I don't want you to get it watching. I don't want you to have to deal with what I did. And it brought up a deeper issue, a lot of issues in my personal life and how I see the world. It brings alienation. And this kind of actually goes into this full moon in Aquarius, because Aquarius a lot of times has a story of alienation going on with it. You hear of detachment, as in they choose detachment, or they need their space to be their independent selves because they don't, in a sense, fit in the normal line in a normal world. Or you have major Aquarius stuff in your chart, you're always going to somehow rebel in that area and do things off the norm. Even though traditionally you stand in a normal line, you're going to branch off. You can't help it. That's what happens with that sign. But I don't think people sometimes understand, unless they know an Aquarius or have Aquarius in their chart, how they can feel alone in things, in the alienation. Whether they choose to be alone or not, they will find themselves there. And that's where I found myself. And I still find myself. And I found alienation my whole life. But I found it in a different way of being sick. When you're alone and you have nothing, or you don't have the resources, or people around, like nothing, you're alone. And that's what my world is. And it made me think on a deeper level about people who don't even have the resources I have, who have had COVID or something else, that they're sick or they're challenged, or they don't have friends or family or community to support them. And you combine that with the way the world has become with technology and the internet, and feeling that we're cohesively together because of the ones and zeros in the app, but at the same time, on a human, organic, basic level, there's this separation that's happened, and this alienation, and this basic human disconnect. And I think it's important to understand this, because on a fundamental world level, as people, as humans, there is a separation that's been going on. You see more arguing, more fighting online, more political bullshit. Political bullshit's always happening, but you see it more than ever, in the manipulation going on. And it's because there's a separateness happening. And so for me, being sick, still dealing with it, what did COVID brains for real, by the way, it really messed with my head mentally. It's taken me weeks to get through some of the challenges and the darkness that I was in. And I don't wish that on anybody. But I'll tell you, I wish I had certain things in my life. A couple people in my world hit me up and be there. I don't want to be. I have an Aquarius moon. I have Mars in Aquarius. I choose to detach sometimes. I choose to do that because I need to do it. I rebel. I rebel eventually with groups of people. But I'll tell you, when you're sick or you're down in the dumps or you're depressed, you don't want to be alone. It doesn't matter what fucking moon you have or what transit you have. You're human. You want acknowledgement, confirmation, love, nurturing. Now, I'm really serious on the video. I haven't been around, but this, besides my personal life, this full moon and the stuff that's happening this year with transits, it has to do for a lot of people about how they deal with being separate or how they come together. And that's why I'm bringing the forging thing involved with all this, because I'm into thinking of how to bring it together for my world, or for you out there that's having a hard time with transits in your chart. But on a bigger, broader basis, and this is my personal opinion, I'm looking to see how we can forge ourselves together in a loving, strong, real, truthful way, because I see it happening the opposite way. So those are some of the thoughts I had when I fucking had a fever of 103 for 4 or 5 days, where I felt extremely alone. Everything. I can't even begin to tell you what it is. And some of you have your own story with this. But one thing's for sure is whenever I came back to do a video, that I wasn't going to lie. That I was going to always do what I was doing before. I was going to tell you my truth, be me. I don't care about the likes. I don't care about anything else. I just want to be real, because if I can't do that, then I'm still separate. I'm still detached, emotionless, non-human. I don't want that. I don't want that for you, and I don't want that for the world. You have somebody in your life that you can say, hey, I love you, I care for you, do it. You have to look in the mirror and forge yourself and tell yourself and find that wounded person inside yourself. Look in the mirror and say, I love you. I'm care for you. The actions that you take, what you think, they are powerful. You can forge beautiful things from those places. So, I'm slowly coming back to do the videos. I'm going to work on a Mars and Gemini video because it's a huge transit coming up. Mars is going to be coming up here in Gemini soon. It's going to go retrograde. It's going to be there for 7 months. I have some other things, but I have to take my time. I have to get back to having the energy and the confidence and knowing that everything's cool. And that's what I did. And it's okay to do that. And it took me a little bit to figure that out. For those of you still watching, strangers that commented on my YouTube videos, sent me personal messages on Instagram. I don't even know you. And you all came at me. The people I don't even know came at me and said most kindest, best wishes. I have people in my life that I used to know for years, that I used to be friends with. I have lost friend groups, whatever. I didn't hear shit, to be honest, okay? Only for certain people. I had strangers coming to me. And it actually infused me and said, when I get better, when I do a video, I'm going to be straight up. I'm never going to falter from that. I'm always going to give you me from here and from here. So thank you out there, you beautiful human strangers from all over the world. Your simple comment when I was really sick, I'm like, all right, man, I that's another point of light. And that's where I'm ending. Forging, putting back together the light here, and you do the same. Thanks for watching.